Hello everyone. Welcome to the third workshop of the day. I'm really excited to have you guys over again. So for this workshop, I'm really excited to have a lot of panelists over today. So topic for today is hacking your first internship, and we are partnered up with Women in Science and Engineering Club at York University. To tell us what your WISE Club does, here's Ayana from WISE Club. How are you, Ayana?
Hey, I'm good, thank you.
Hey, how's it going? So can you tell us more about what the event today is going to be about?
Yeah, for sure. So first of all, hi everyone. I'm Mayana. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm a CS student at York. And I run the Women in Science and Eng team. And what we do is we try to host like relevant events to support students in their careers in STEM. And so today's panel is modeled after what a typical internship journey would look like. So we're going to start off with questions surrounding more of what happens at the beginning of an internship, so related to onboarding and things like that. We'll talk a little bit about best practices or things to try out during the duration of your internship. And then we'll wrap up with kind of things to think about when you move on from an internship or as you're wrapping up.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that introduction. So yeah, I'll pass it on to you, and then good luck with the moderation and best of luck.
Thank you. Bye, John. Awesome. So hello, everyone. These are our panelists for today, Danna and Maria. I just wanted to give a little bit, or actually I'd love to kick it off to our panelists to introduce themselves before we get into the questions. So maybe just like your name and what you're doing right now and where you've interned in the past, that would be great. Maria, would you like to start us off?
Oh, okay. You can hear me, right? Okay, so my name is Maria and I am in the Shopify dev degree program with Ayana. I'm like 2 years older than Ayana. And yeah, I'm in my final year at York. I'm studying computer science, my last semester right now, so hopefully I graduate. And the internships I've done in the past have been mostly through Shopify. So I did front-end development as my first one, back-end, data engineering, and I'm currently on a production engineering team, so more infrastructure things. I really enjoyed that a lot. And I also got to do an internship at Twitch over the summer in like more full stack. And I also kind of did like something at a startup there like part-time, and that was not a good experience, but I guess that also counts. And yeah, I don't know. I think that's all for me. Danna, introduce yourself.
Yeah, so I'm Danna. I'm a third-year computer science student at Carleton University with a double minor in stats and business. My pronouns are she, her, and right now I'm just doing school and I'll be joining Stripe over the summer. I've previously worked at like a small startup before. Also a very difficult experience, honestly, Maria. And then after that, I worked at PagerDuty as a full stack engineer. And then Microsoft as an Explorer intern, where I got to do some product management as well as software engineering. And then last fall, I was at Coinbase as a backend engineer on their payments cards team.
You've been everywhere.
Yeah, I was just gonna
literally
say.
everywhere.
Cool, awesome. So to start us off, let's, I guess, kick it off with some questions about what the beginning of an internship looks like. And so before you started in any of your roles, maybe thinking back to your first role as an intern, was there anything you were particularly nervous or excited about? And if so, is there anything you did to like prepare yourself, whether that's like practically or just like mentally or emotionally?
I guess I can go first. When I got my first internship, I was like freaked out because I was like, I don't know anything. And I was talking about this with a lot of people. it's actually so much better when you get an internship and you don't know anything, because even if you tried an internship maybe 2 years later, a year out, you're still not going to know as much as you did after that. You still won't know as much as you did before that internship. So just getting that internship experience, you'll learn so much more exponentially quicker, which is way better than just not taking the internship. And like, the one thing I was super excited about was joining the workforce. I mean, like, learning to code a different language. My first internship at PagerDuty, I got to work with Elixir, which is one of those like super random, not very used languages, and it was functional programming, which came useful when I took it finally like in my third year. And I was like, oh, this is actually what it does. So like, I didn't know anything about functional programming. During my internship, I was struggling, and then I did it my third year for a class, and I was like, oh, I got this. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree with those points. I think that you'll learn so much, and then kind of like I was super nervous, and especially because I had no real front end experience joining like my first internship, and that was really scary. And I even cried when I found out like, oh, I'm going on a front end team. I just started bawling because I was like, what the heck? I don't know any front end, and I just learned everything on the internship, and my mentor was really good about it. Like basically, I would say humble yourself and don't expect yourself to be like at this level, because you will meet like senior engineers who make you feel like a baby because you know nothing like compared to them, but you will learn so much from them, just like overhearing conversations or like in meetings or like even just Googling things. And then and lots of like so many interesting things you'll learn. Yeah, sorry, people.
All good.
But yeah, what other things? Oh yeah, also the thing that I was thinking of was like what I didn't know was Git. And that was the thing that scared me, because like I did not know Git very well. And especially what I saw with all of my friends who did their first internships, like by the end, even no matter like how good you were coming into the first internship, working on a team where you have to like use Git and like combine code and everything, you will mess up so many times, and you'll have to, because you have to rebase, right? Because usually you're used to working on individual projects, and all you have to do is like add, commit, merge, like to like or like push or whatever to the maximum. And then when you're working with other people, you're going to be rebasing, and everything's going to fuck up, and you're going to be like all over the place and trying to figure it out. And it's like, well, why do I have all these random commits in my pull request and have to start over or like fix things? So then, yeah, you'll learn about all those things, like get cherry picking, commits, all fun times. Like that's like the first internship is you'll just get really good at using Git. No matter what internship you do, that's what you'll get good at.
I have a funny story about Git and rebasing. My first internship, I was so bad at Git rebasing because I just like never did it before. And so like anytime I try on my own, I'd like message my mentor, I'd be like, I did so many things, this isn't working out. He'd be like, let me take a look. And then he'd take a look. He's like, try these things. And we'd like hop on a call together, try to rebase. And then at the end, he'll be like, you know what? I think you're better off restarting on a new branch.
Yes.
Make a new branch. And I was like, I'm so humbled right now. Like, this is too much.
No, I definitely agree. I think Git was probably the scariest part of starting off any internship, or at least for me. There have definitely been moments where I've cried over a rebase. Awesome. Okay, so now that we talked a little bit about like the pre-internship, is there anything or any specific way you like to approach onboarding? Or is there anything you do in your first week or two to set yourself up for success, like later on in the internship?
I try to meet with everyone on my team one-on-one, like get to know them, because then you know who knows what, like who's good at this, like who I can ask a question to, like whether it's a Git question or like the specific programming language. Because like on my team, everyone's skill level is different with things. Like some people, like on my current team, some people don't know Golang whatsoever. Some people are like masters at it, or like they're super good at Kubernetes and stuff like that. So I know who to ask for different things. And then just like finding people who you can reach out to, and especially knowing how they like to be reached out to. Because my specific mentor, he is one of those people, like you message him on Slack, he will respond 5 hours later. Like that is the minimum time you have to wait. And then there's the other guy on my team. So like with my mentor, I have to schedule meetings with him. And like in those 30-minute meetings, I can get so much done because I can get all my questions answered. And then there's the other guy on my team. If you message him, he will respond in like 5 seconds. but then he will like send you a million messages one by one by one. Not like a huge chunk, just like one by one, just pinging you constantly. And then once I say like I still don't get it, he'll be like, okay, let's hop on a call. So it's like very different ways of communication and trying to figure out like who to go to. And also like general onboarding, like like reading docs and stuff and making a list of questions. Like what I'll do is like go through whatever documentation they have about their projects or like different programming languages or technologies, and then make a Google Doc with my questions, and then go to my mentor or like someone on my team and ask them to clarify these things. And then I don't know, lots of things, lots of things.
Yeah, I agree. I think like meeting your team members is super useful. Just like getting to know your team so you're more integrated with them, you're more comfortable asking for help, and like just like chatting about your project with them. I think like something else that I really needed to know from like chatting with my team was like how different repositories work. So when I was at Coinbase, we had we would size tickets, right? And so anything that was in our monorail repository, so everything that was like working with Ruby in that super big monorail repository, we'd add another story point to it just because it took forever to like go through everything and the processes and getting reviewed. So my first time working there, I was like, oh my gosh, this is like the worst. I'm the worst. This is so bad right now. Like I'm not performing well enough. And I was talking to like people on my team. I was like, I feel like I'm performing really slow. They're like, nope, this is normal. This is as expected. It takes long for this thing. And like, if I hadn't spoken to anyone, I probably would have just continuously felt bad for myself. But knowing that made me feel a little better. And so later sizing tickets, I also understood why we'd give more points to anything working in that repository. You can also meet with your mentor and manager, like just like right when you're starting, meet with your mentor and manager. They usually will schedule a call with you. And when you're in those meetings, just like make both your mentor and manager aware of your goals. So like when I set goals, usually I tell them like, hey, for this internship, I'm trying to get comfortable with back-end development or leading a project or something along those lines. Like come up with like very strong specific goals for yourself. So mine at Coinbase were actually pretty clear cut. I wanted to get more comfortable with my backend skills on my own rather than like having as much paired programming, and also just like leading my project. I also wanted to learn a little bit more about crypto, so that I really got to do. And so my mentor and my manager were very involved in helping me set my goals.
Thank you. Yeah, I love how you mentioned like performance and like setting goals and stuff, and that's something we'll definitely come back to later on in this conversation. So the next question is, what did, or if you are currently in an internship, what does your day-to-day routine look like?
I don't have a routine ever. I think like your days look pretty similar. It's just like you're coding, you have your meetings, like daily stand-ups, or like sometimes you have one-on-ones with your mentor or manager, and then you like take a coffee or snack break in between, and then you're back to coding. I don't think I've ever had a very like set schedule. One thing though is for remote work, I definitely did keep a certain schedule of like, this is when I stop work and this is when I end work. It got a little confusing during my Coinbase internship where I was working overtime a few days just to make deadlines, but usually I start work at a certain time and I end work certain time just to keep my life somewhat balanced.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wait, I forgot the question.
That's okay.
Yeah, I agree with what Danna said. It's like very similar. I guess sometimes I'm lazy, and then if I don't have any meetings in the morning, then I'll bring my laptop to my bed and work from bed and just like type away in my bed. I do like having an extra monitor like when I'm sitting at my desk, but then I'm also lazy in the morning. So I'm just like typing in my bed, playing some Spotify music like in the background. And then I guess then usually I'll have like so I work like Tuesday, Thursday, Friday this semester. And then Tuesday I have like a meeting with my mentor like at 10:30 or something. I don't even use it as like a one-on-one. I use it as like pair programming time because like I said, I can never reach him. So then I'm like, okay, ask all my questions there or like talk about things. Like this week it was more of just like a one-on-one. I didn't have like many questions to ask. And then after that, I might have other one-on-one meetings where we have 2 meetings per week with my team. Like Tuesday, Thursday we meet. So we talk about like what everyone's working on. We're trying to become more organized and using like GitHub project boards, like doing that. So then, yeah, we're talking about what everyone is doing, and then what are the next steps, like any blockers and things like that. And then yeah, just more coding or like, yeah, usually my meetings will end like around 3 or something. I generally don't have meetings later than that. So I'll just be doing stuff until like 5 or whenever like I finish work. Like depends on my schedule. And yeah, I feel like it's the same with Danna. Like you have to make sure, like some days you aren't very productive. So then, yeah, I was actually talking about this with my like new lead. I was talking to him about like how do you take breaks, kind of, because sometimes my brain is just so fried because of meetings. Honestly, like if I have a meeting heavy day and I'm just like finally get down to sit and code, and I'm like I can't. Like my eyes are so tired. I've been looking at the screen all day. I need to take a break. And he's like, yeah, do take a break, because he said like you need to do that. It's super helpful. So try to take like 5-minute breaks, 10-minute breaks. He even said like go and take a nap. I'm not a person who could just randomly like take a nap, so that's not the case for me. But he said he used, when he had a dog before, like a few years ago, he would schedule times in his day when he would go and walk his dog outside. So it's like he would actually like, go and take breaks. So maybe scheduling things might be helpful. So I think yeah, taking breaks for me is what's hard, or like yeah, finding a set schedule, because like every day it's different because different meetings. You know, Ayana might change the time of our one-on-one and it messes everything up. You don't know.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely guilty of that. But I love how you mentioned like scheduling things. I think something that like I feel like scheduling is not only good for like yourself and your own reference, but also just letting others know that like that's your protected time, and like hey, don't like schedule me here. Yeah, so thank you both for speaking on that. I would like to take a minute to welcome another panelist to the discussion right now. Hannah, if I can add her to the stream. Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us, Hannah.
Hi, everybody. I'm so sorry I'm late, but
No
thank you
worries,
for
no
having me.
worries.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining. I was wondering if you'd love to give a little intro about yourself, maybe like where you've worked, if you're working anywhere right now, that would be lovely.
Of course. So I'm Hannah. I'm in my 3rd year of computer engineering at the University of Alberta. And where I've worked before, I worked at Intuit over the summer as like a full stack developer. And right now I'm actually in the office working at Uber for like front-end engineering internship. So yeah.
Thank you.
Well, which
Awesome.
location?
Toronto.
Oh yeah, they have an Uber office in Toronto. I forgot. Yeah.
Really cold. I'm literally wearing my jacket right now. Yeah.
Awesome. So we were just talking a little bit about like everyone's day-to-day routine. Did you want to share a little bit about like what that would look like for you?
Sure, yeah. So my day-to-day routine, I mean, right now, like our office just opened up this week, so it's been like get up at like 7, get ready, walk over to the office, and I've been here, I guess like I came in a little bit late today, but it'll usually be like around 9 to around 5 of meetings, snacks, and getting to talk to some people, and then going back home. I do have one course, so I'll try to get that out of the way, get some exercise in, call my friends. But I found that like having a schedule that's like sort of repetitive but not boring really helps a lot in these times.
Makes sense. Awesome. Okay, so moving on to our next question. How do you document your everyday learnings, big or small?
I used to keep track of that stuff. Like I used to like for I guess I started it in my first internship, I had kind of like goals that I had put in place, or my mentor, it was a front-end internship, and then he was like, okay, here are some things that you should learn about React or about HTML or about CSS, and he made bullet points, and this was in a Google Doc. And then he's like, okay, once you learn that skill, prove it by like adding the PR, like a link to the pull request where you use that skill. So that's how I would kind of document those. And then later on, what I started doing was just like, because I had really bad memory, like I would always forget like what did I do the day before, and I would make like a bullet point list of what did I do that day, and like links to anything, like anything that I learned or like I researched, or like any like code that I wrote. So I put that like each day I would be like, okay, Monday, February, whatever, and then put a few bullet points so I can help me in my stand up the next day, and also like keep track of things, and like in case I need to go back and be like, okay, well, like this is what I did last week, or like I forgot what that link was, or like that was super helpful, like that resource. And then I stopped doing that a few months ago because I became lazy. Yeah, that's what I've been doing.
Yeah, I agree. I think like keeping a journal, like a work journal, is very useful. It doesn't actually have to be like very like journal structured. It can just be like a Google Doc or a Notion doc. And basically you can separate in different sections, like a work specific section, like, oh, I got this bug. This is how I fixed it in case like next time I run into that. And then you can have one for just like lessons or mindsets or problem solving things. So like often when I talk to like new mentors or people, and like I just like hear them say something that's like pretty insightful or something that I'd like to remember, I'd like jot them down really quickly. And then like one last thing is just general career. You never know when someone's going to be like, I do this, and you're like, that's really interesting. Let me like remember that. And I usually forget if I don't write it down as well. So I just like keep those in my notes just in case that like one day I want to look back at it.
Definitely. Yeah, for me, I think a good thing just in general is like if you are not sure if you want to write something down, just do it anyway. But in terms of like any kind of systems, like I do just have like the notes app open at all times for jotting down like questions I might have, and then the answers to those questions if I've spoken to somebody about that. And I have like Google Docs for like ideas for my project, things that I've done in that week, like week by week I'll try and check in. And then I also have like a notebook that I use when we're like in stand up and I want to take notes, or I want to like talk about some certain things that I did but I might like forget. But write everything down, because you think you're gonna remember, but then you don't.
That's true. And if you're having like a hard time just being like, oh, let me put in a Google Doc, Slack messages, you can message yourself. I've messaged myself so much at all my internships. I just have piles and piles of code in my Slack messages to myself, and like piles of links. It looks terrible, but it works.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome.
I think on Slack you can also like save messages.
Yeah.
And then look at them all. So
tips. Yeah. Next question is, how do you unblock yourself when you're stuck? It's a hard one, so we can take a second to think about that.
I think in general, when unblocking yourself, like obviously your mentor is there, but usually they're like your last resource. So you want to try to like use all your resources before you talk to them. Again, we're gonna document everything you've tried, go through all your results, like actually save them somewhere. So like when you talk to your mentor, like, hey, this is what I've tried, this is what I'm getting, and this is where I'm stuck right now. If you have all of that down, it's so much easier for your mentor to be like, yeah, you're on the right track. You're like missing this one bit, or like you're missing a mock for the tests for it to work. That like makes all your problems so much easier to solve. If you go to your mentor and you're like, hey, I've tried a few things and like I kind of need help, and they're like, hey, what do you need help with? And you're like, I've tried so much, I don't even remember. It's so much harder for them to help. So yeah, like document what you've tried and save your results so you know like what questions you want to ask. And then like in terms of just like how to debug yourself, debugging statements works. If you know how to use the debugger in like VS Code and whatnot, that's also very useful. Learning to read error messages as well. I think like sometimes you're sitting there and you're just like, I kind of get it, but sometimes when you Google the message, a lot of people have like solutions they've used to fix it. So looking at those too.
Yeah, definitely. For me, I found that I'm not always the best at this, but I know that time blocking yourself can be very useful because I know that if I have a problem, I'm really going to want to figure it out myself. But when that happens, like I can get a little carried away. So if it's like, you have a problem that you know that like your mentor could probably figure out much quicker than you, give it a shot for like half an hour or something, and then ask after like doing your like due diligence, I would say.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, do your due diligence. Like, make sure that when you ask someone something, it's like you explain what you did. Like both Danna and Hannah said, like you need to show that you actually tried. And yeah, you can time box yourself like, oh, like 30 minutes, 1 hour, like I'll spend this much time on it. But also, like I find that a lot of the problems that I run into at this point, like a lot of the things that I can try to solve through Googling or like through stuff that I know from the past. But then at this point, like the current team that I'm on, since it's production engineering, it's like infrastructure stuff, things I never worked on before, and it's stuff that's very specific to how my team works, like in Shopify, like very specific. And the whole thing is like I don't have the context. I need to ask someone who knows how this thing works because not everything is going to be documented. And sometimes the readmes are like very random and like in random places where you can't find them. And I'm like, I need at least a link to it. Like even if they help me send me a link, and I'm like, okay, let me read through this. What am I missing? Or like, what step do I need to do to get this working? So it's just like, yeah, a lot of the times, if it's something like, you can find on Google, like if it's like some CSS thing, then yeah, whatever. It's like, you can find that online. It's not specific to your company. But if it's something like super like you have no idea how this thing works, then ask someone because they probably know and can explain it to you.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's like a lot of like using your own judgment to decide when it's best to ask questions and like at what point do you cut yourself off from trying. Like if you're spending a day over like a problem that like an engineer can probably solve within an hour, you definitely overdid it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, just to add one last thing, like to talk about, especially if you're an intern, there's going to be a lot of things that you don't even know that you don't know. So before you get to the point where you're just like absolutely burnt out and just gone, sometimes it helps just to ask right away. Again, just like use your own judgment and see.
Yeah, or even ask in meetings. Ask things in meetings. Yeah, like yesterday we had a meeting and then they were talking about, they went so off topic. Like my teammates were talking about something called N dots. They're like N.1. And I was like, what does that even mean? Like I kept thinking it. I was like, what is this? And I kept searching every single spelling of that. And I couldn't find anything on Google. And then they talked about it for like 20 minutes, went all over the place, had no idea what they were saying. And then like instead of interrupting at the beginning, which I could have done and would have like tried to understand the conversation, I waited until the end when they're like, oh, any last things? And I'm like, yeah, what's N dot? And then like N.1, and they're like, and I literally told them I can't find it. Like I've been trying to Google this, and they were laughing so hard. And they're like, oh, it's actually N dots, and then it's like colon, and then like you put a number and something in Kubernetes. And I was like, what even is this? And it's like, because it's for DNS records, it's like you have to put the fully qualified domain name or whatever, and they're like, yeah, it's this whole thing. And then I was like, what the hell is this? I should have just asked at the beginning. And then they explained it. They spent like 10 minutes trying to explain it to me. So that was very nice. But yeah, try to ask things right away. Like in those cases, ask things right away.
I think like one other thing I just like remembered my mentor told me was like when we interviewed for our positions, like you ask questions before you even start, right? You get context, you figure out how to like, you understand what the problem's asking, what you're trying to achieve. You come up with like use cases and whatnot, and then you build as you're going, and then you can ask your interviewer questions. My mentor was like, a lot of interns forget like how they interviewed for us because like that's also how you should be going about problems like while working. You know, like if you get a ticket and you're not sure how to even go about it, you can start off by like hopping on a call with your mentor, like getting the context, getting the general idea, and then like breaking it down before you even start on the problem.
I love that, like kind of unblocking yourself before you're even stuck in a sense. Kind of circling back to something we talked about a little bit earlier, when Danna mentioned like asking if like you're performing too slow or like if this is expected performance. How do you track and how do you assess your own performance and impact? I know that different companies may have like frameworks for job levels. I've heard of companies that have intern specific ones as well. And so I'm just curious, like if you've experienced any particularly like productive ways of doing that, or like useful ways of doing that for yourself.
I don't know. I think what's good.
Tough question.
Yeah, it is. I think what's good is when they do have a framework. Like last summer when I was at Twitch, like they had a thing like in the summer where it's like, okay, every 3 weeks or something, you get feedback from your mentor and manager. So then they will give you feedback. I think it's very different. Like in my other experiences, like I know at Shopify, like Ayana and I, we both have like every 4 months performance review. So it's very different. So I guess that's a bigger chunk of time. So you kind of have to ask your mentor for advice, like, or like for feedback on how you're doing. And like, I guess how I would measure myself is like, do I feel like, because usually I feel very stupid at the beginning. Like I start at square zero. Like at the beginning, I don't know anything. It's a new team. It's maybe a new company. Everything is new. Just like, what have I learned in the past month? Like, have I gotten better? And even like that's the case with everything. Like right now I'm taking a course in Korean and it's like, I didn't know Korean a few months ago. I still haven't learned a lot of it, but now I'm like, wow, I can make these sentences. Like I can say this. I didn't know that a while ago. I also didn't know even how to read Korean. I didn't like now I can hear people talking in K-dramas or something. I can hear like some of the words that I've been learning. And that's the same with like in tech, like, oh, do I understand, like how much do I understand the conversation that my teammates are having? Like, do I know these words now? Do I understand? Do I know how to ask these questions, or do I know like maybe what to Google at this point? So it's like you can see like how far have you progressed, and I guess you can set goals for yourself and see how far you have gotten through them, and like track them week after week or every month, and then just also like like if you take notes, like see how much have you progressed from your first week to now, and try to do that for yourself. Like don't wait for someone to tell you to do that. I would say like do it for yourself if that's important to you, to see how much you've grown. And then I don't know, there's so many ways. But I'm definitely not the best at this because I have not set any goals for this semester because I didn't have to do like the course, because we have like a kind of like a co-op course where you have to set goals, but then I did all of those, so then I didn't sign up for it for this year, so I haven't been setting goals. I've just been like, I want to get good at Golang, I want to get good at Kubernetes, and those are like my goals.
Yeah, I think like one thing is like you can talk to your mentor or your manager just to see how you're doing and your progress. I also think your impact and like how you should assess your performance changes throughout your internship. Like what Maria said, when you start at a new company or a new team, you're like really struggling to figure things out. Like when you don't know the context, you don't know how the team works yet. You might not know the languages they're working with or the tech stack. So like when you're starting an internship, usually the goals I want to track are like, am I learning as much as I can? Am I getting comfortable with the tech stack, with my team? Am I slowly getting integrated with the team? Am I meeting new people? And like meeting people should be a pretty big goal during internships. I think like these are people that you can learn a lot from. And like even when you're leaving your internship, you can stay in touch with them. And then like as you're like further along in your internship, I think like most people say by month 3, you get a little more comfortable and you start pushing code a little quicker than you were like the first 2 months. So by then you can try pushing code a little faster, a little cleaner, your goals can be a little bit like when I'm getting code reviews, it's not as messy as before and like people accept it quicker and it's not taking like a day or two. And am I like performing almost as good as a different companies have different things. I know some companies use like L3, so like new grad engineer. Am I like almost at their level? You don't have to be, but if you're working towards that near the end of your internship and you're like getting there, usually you've been making pretty good progress.
Yeah, definitely. At least for Uber right now, the plan is like halfway through your internship, you get like a review and like a meeting, and then at the end as well. But I didn't have that at my last internship. So I guess what you can always also just like ask. I usually just ask like every little while, I'm like, how am I doing? What do you think? And is there anything? And like usually like your mentor is probably going to be willing to, they're not going to just wait until like your midpoint review to tell you everything. So yeah.
Wait, I just wanted to add that, like,
Yeah.
to that, wait, okay, I'm so bad at this. I always have something to say that I'm like blank and forget what I'm about to say. But I think, yeah, you'll always be shocked, or like I'm always shocked about what people say about me, like when we do our feedback or like performance reviews, because it's stuff that I don't notice about myself because I don't look at like the good things. I'm like, I always think that I'm
Yeah.
wrong, and I never think about the things I'm doing right. And then when people point it out, I'm like, seriously? Are you sure? Like,
Yeah.
what? Like, because yeah, exactly. I'm like, oh my god, because they're like even with Twitch when they did the reviews, they would be so nice. I was like, I'm going so slow. I need to finish this project on time, and they're like, you're going so fast, Maria. Like, calm yourself down. You're doing fine. You'll get it done. So it was so nice, and I was like, oh my god. And then even they like compared me to my mentor because they were like, your mentor is super fast and he always gets stuff done. Like they said that if if there's anything wrong, like he will always be able to get it done somehow. And then they're like, you're like him, and I was like, what? That's such a good compliment, like the best compliment. And yeah, it's just even like with the project I've been working on now, like yes, we want to get it done really quickly, and I'm trying to get it done at work, but then there's always like hiccups along the way, of course, that you don't expect. And my teammate, the one that like he doesn't know Golang, and then he's making me do so much like coding in Golang, so it's very funny, like because he's more like system administrator kind of guy. And then he was like, wow, it would have like I thought I was going slowly, and he was like, wow, that would have taken me like 3 months to do, and you did it in like 1 month. And I was like, yo, thank you. That was very cool. And also like what Danna was saying about like pull requests, writing pull requests, I was on a team and like for data engineering, and then they said that when a new person joins the team and they write their first pull request, they will specifically go really hard on them and like nitpick everywhere and like make sure like they will go hard. They will have like 50 comments on that pull request, and it will take you a while to get it merged because they want to teach you what it's like to write good code and like what they're expecting from you. So then yeah, it will definitely get better. Like now on my team, I'm like, I write a pull request, one person reviews it, they're like, yeah, approve. Like no comments, they're like, yeah, go ahead, merge. And then so sometimes it's like that. Like it's way faster than it was before because they're just gotten better at knowing what to do.
Like if you compare your pull requests from like a year ago versus now, like you're gonna see a huge difference. Like I still remember my first pull request had a bunch of comments. They're like, write some context. Like also, did you know you're supposed to have an empty line at the end of the file? I was like, I don't know.
Yo, I love that. I think like I don't know what you mentioned about like thinking like a certain way about yourself and then like hearing that someone else is like feeling a different kind of way. I feel like sometimes we're like, because we're like living in our own shoes, we're so focused on like just like the day-to-day of what we do, and like we don't really see like the like, hey, we objectively they can see that, hey, she started at this level and like now she's at this level, and like they can see it like from us a step back, I guess, whereas like we're very much like living the moment. Awesome. Okay, so now we're nearing the end of our panel. We have about 15 minutes left. At this point in time, we do have a couple more questions planned, but I would like to ask if anyone watching has any questions, feel free to throw them into the chat, and we can answer them and incorporate them in the convo as we go along. Okay, cool. So next question. Was there anything you thought you'd like about the experience, but you didn't? Or vice versa, like you didn't think you'd like it and you ended up liking it? Or like in other words, like was anything surprising to you?
I feel like for both my internships, I was definitely surprised at how like willing to help everybody is. Like no matter who you ask, I know that in my head I'm like, oh, I'm bothering them. Like they're just gonna help like some like stupid little intern like me. But every person that I've ever like reached out to has been really like super helpful and like willing to like I guess like I don't want to say like come down to your level, but like they're willing to help you out. It was really great.
I think I figured out a lot about like my preferences in terms of like work culture and workplace as well from my internships. Like at Coinbase, I was like really looking forward to leading my own project and like working pretty independently. But then like by the end, I was like, that was a lot. Like I was stressed throughout my whole internship, like really stressed. I was like, there were nights where I was working till 11 p.m. I was like really trying to make my project. I was so stressed. And like my mentor was also working on his project too. And he was stressed as well. Like I remember his deadline for pushing his project was like midway through my internship, and he pushed it like a week before my deadline was to push my project. Launch. So that was like really stressful. He was stressed, so he didn't have too much time with me. And then I didn't get too much mentorship that internship. And then like even at that point,
sucks. No, like just that sucks. That's
I put down
terrible.
my internship to help a little, and then everyone hopped on board on my project. But I think like that much leadership for like when I was just like running this one project that I barely had any context on was like very, very stressful. And I was like, I think I need to take a step back and like think about like what kind of like work culture I want. And so like a lot of people did tell me before, like Coinbase, they're growing, so they're going fast. My team was also hiring at that time because they were desperately in need of like back-end engineers. I think in total, I was their fourth back-end engineer, and they were doing 4 projects at once. So it was like very, very quick and fast paced. So
that's not a place to put an intern. Not a place to put an intern, honestly.
Yeah.
That's bad planning on their part.
Oh, I was like, by the end, I was like, great experience. I learned so much from that. Like my confidence and my ability to code and like figure out problems. Because like often I would message my mentor, I was like, hey, do you have time today? And they're like, no, how's tomorrow? So then I have to figure it out. So I talked to people on other teams to even like solve my problems. And I was like, okay, like I don't think I can work somewhere so fast paced. And so like sometimes you do learn these things. Like I was super excited about Coinbase, and I'm still happy about my experience, but I was just like too stressful.
Would you go back though? Would you go back there?
I made a decision that I wouldn't. I don't think I'd even go there full time just because it just wasn't my vibe.
That makes sense. Yeah, I think mine is a positive thing, not a negative thing. But like, I was thinking about my second internship. I was on a team that was super disorganized all over the place. But the one good thing was that they were super well connected. Like they were so nice because they went super hard on pair programming. And I did not want to do pair programming because I'm an introvert. Like we would pair program like, okay, me and these 2 guys who are also young, because okay, what happened was my mentor, she left within a month of my internship to a different team. So like I had no mentor. And then the other guy who was a senior on our team, he was in India at the time. So he was big time difference. So we couldn't contact him like a lot of the time. And he was kind of mentoring like we have level 4. So like level 4 is a new grad. So then he was mentoring the level 4 guy who was new. And there was like a level 5 guy. So it was just me, the level 4, and the level 5 guy pair programming like every single day, just like working together. We would work on different things, or we would code together. And it was just so much fun because I got to know them so well. And like they taught me so much, like seeing how they do things was really good. And then we got a staff engineer to join our team, and he loved pair programming. So staff engineer, insanely smart, knows everything, was teaching us stuff. And we were just like, whoa, he knows so much. It was just so good. that's like where I got my love of pair programming, and like I guess it made me feel like easier to, or like it's not so stressful to have someone watching you code or like share my screen with people, because at first I was nervous about that, and now I'm okay with it. Like it's fine, and like yeah, you can make mistakes or whatever, or like think of something or type it out, or like they can even take over your screen and show you like something cool. So I think that's really cool. That's really fun, because yeah, I didn't think I would like it at first because I'm introverted, so it's like I lose a lot of my energy from having meetings and talking to people a lot. But I kind of got used to it over. I always look forward to it. So yeah.
I think like one last thing is like you'll also surprise yourself after your internship experience. Like the amount of things you can accomplish by the end of your internship is pretty amazing. And like I think my first few internships, I just like skipped over it. I was like, oh, like everyone can do this. Yeah, that's true. But like you did it on your own with like support and whatnot as a student. And like you're always gonna keep growing. So like you got to give that to yourself. And like, I think like I'm still very grateful for my Coinbase experience, just because like the amount of leadership they gave me was just something that like I really appreciate. That gave me so much confidence to like keep building. And like by the end, I was like, I did that, like I saw these things that I at first in my internship was like, this is not possible. I can't do this. But you figure it out. And so you end up surprising yourself as well.
What's that? Okay, maybe we have time for like one or two more questions. So did you, or actually, how did your first internship or any internship experience shape the decision for your next role, or like the next company you joined?
I could take this one. So my first internship, it wasn't super long ago, but with that, I did not have an intern project. It was work that like, I guess like the team would do, but I was able to do, I guess. That being said, there wasn't a lot of like design and like planning work that I get to do right now in this internship, which I guess I didn't really know until like I went through that internship. And also like what else is there? I did realize that like I do like working at like a bigger company just because you get to meet so many new people. Another thing is like you learn how to like ask questions and stuff through your internship. So I was really grateful for like all the skills that I got from that one and to be able to bring that to a different company. So yeah, that's kind of like how my first internship shaped, I guess, this experience now.
Yeah, I agree. I think it also helps you figure out what you want to learn at your next internship. So I think like at my first internship, I really enjoyed like doing back-end development. So at that point I was like, you know what, I want to give that a try again. And even I think like it also helps you decide in what industries you want to go next. If you want to try something new, I have been pretty careful picking what I wanted to do next. So every internship I had some type of goal to learn about like B2B, B2C, crypto, more about finance and whatnot. Those are ways to do it. And then slowly you find out more about where you want to work in the future as well. So that's been super great.
Yeah, I think I also like it taught me, I guess because of the way that the Shopify Dev Degree program works, it's like you're trying to figure out which area you want to go to next. Like you have to try out 4 different areas. And the first placement I was in, like first internship, was front end, and I was just pushed into that. And I realized that while it was fun, like I kind of worked on 2 different teams. I did like part of front end where you're like creating things that other like developers are going to be using, and it's like, but I didn't like the part where it's like, oh, a designer gives you this design and you just have to like code the CSS or like the React components. So that's what my mentor, like he was saying, like 80% of the time it's going to be the boring stuff, like in any field, it's going to be boring stuff, and 20% of the time is going to be interesting and challenging things. So then, like, it was good that I got to work on like an interesting and challenging project, but I also learned that I don't like front end that much. So I was like, okay, let's go as far away as possible. Let's try all the different things. Yeah, like no more CSS, please. But like, I'm fine with it. But like, I still, I'm still not a JavaScript stan, I would say. And I think, yeah, it also taught me like the culture, like Danna was saying, for like what you're looking for in a team or like people that you work with, because it was my first only in-person internship, actually, only one in person, and I met all these people. Like I was working with product managers, designers, front end, back end people, like so many different people, and data scientists. I really loved that aspect of it. Like I liked working with people in different areas, and I liked learning about their jobs and things like that, and just having like a very, like, I don't know, cross collaborative type of team, or like a product type of team where you're building something and people actually get to see it, which I do like platform stuff a lot as well, which is what I learned. So it's like I'm kind of both. I do like building things for like things that you won't see, right? Like things like in production engineering, infrastructure stuff, like different clusters or something. I don't know, like different things that people won't see, but it still does things, right? But it's still cool for me. And I don't know. Yeah, I definitely learned about that. And I learned, yeah, what I want to learn more. And also I learned what it like, yeah, what a good team looks like, what a good team dynamic looks like, and what like good mentorship looks like, because my mentor was really good, and like how I want my further internships to be structured, like more organized, and yeah, like setting goals and things like that. I think that really helped, like to have a really good foundation of like a good internship, to know like what to look for in future ones.
I love that. Yeah, no, that definitely makes a lot of sense. Okay, so we do have 5 minutes left. So I guess we can wrap up now. Maybe it would be great if, I don't know, each of y'all could share one thing you'd like folks to take away from the panel. Just knowing that like the audience is primarily like students who haven't either not done an internship before and are planning to, or maybe have done a couple. Yeah, like your best advice or like takeaways you'd like to share.
Yeah, I could go first. My big takeaway would be, do not be afraid to go for whatever you want. I do remember, I don't think I brought this up, but like, I remember when I was applying for internships the first time around, there were people who were like, just take what you can get, like don't be picky and choosy, but don't listen to them. Aim for what you really want, and of course, like if you have experience for that, that's even better. Yeah.
Thank you.
I guess like one thing I would add is finding the best mentor for you, and like finding as many mentors as possible, if you can. Usually like when I look for a mentor, I look for someone who I can be friends with. And when you're looking for a mentor, you don't need to worry just about career. Like I think like every person has a walk of life that like is very different from yours, and they've experienced things, and they've also learned to figure out like what they like, what they don't like, and they've been through quite a lot as well. So like just being open to talking to as many people as possible, and like being open to hearing what they've been through, and what like what lessons they have that you can take away from as well, is very helpful. So just like meeting people, talking to people, finding mentors that you can be friends with, that you can really connect with.
Yeah, I think I was talking to this one female engineer yesterday, and then what she said resonated with me. And it was that, because I was telling her about all of like my worries and things like that, and she was saying that it's more of like life, or even your career, it's more of an endurance race, it's not a sprint. So think about yourself, like we were talking about before, like take breaks and don't push yourself too hard, like, or don't be too hard on yourself as well. Like even if it's your 15th internship or job, like you're still going to learn things, you're still going to make mistakes, and just be happy that you have this opportunity, that you're going to learn a lot from it. And yeah, I don't know, just have fun. I think like just enjoy it, and yeah, make new friends, meet new people, learn new things. And yeah, just, and also like we were saying before, at the end of it, or even like every week, to look back and see how far you have come and how much you have learned. Yeah.
I think one last thing, don't be afraid to make mistakes. When you're like afraid to make mistakes, you're less likely to try as many things as you can to like solve the problem you're trying to solve. So like I think like I remember my first internship, sometimes I'd sit there and be like, man, I don't even know what I could try, but I really knew what I could try. I just didn't want to try and see that it would be wrong. So like just go for it. If it goes wrong, it goes wrong. You were learning. What can anyone say?
Love that. Awesome. Okay, so we are now at the end of our time. I want to take a second to thank Maria, Danna, and Hannah for coming on and sharing your experiences. I learned a lot. I was taking notes on the side because honestly, I'm going to try to implement some of these like in my job. And I hope everyone watching also enjoyed. Before we head off, I'd just like to let all the yuHacks participants know that the next workshop is at 7 p.m., which is right now, Eastern, for Intro to Computer Vision. So feel free to check that out. Yeah, once again, thank you so much. I really, really appreciated y'all being here today.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.